Women get real. Frances talks to us about her journey with PTSD.
It was like after Jordan, whenever Jordan was born, I had PTSD. And, I filled out all the questionnaires. My health visitor was in constant contact with me because of his condition. So was the GP, so was pediatricians. I was surrounded by doctors for 6 months with full-blown PTSD. And not one person, not one health professional ever turned around and says to me, I think there might be something wrong with you. Because after he was born and everything was so quick and sudden, and I was in complete autopilot the entire time. Do you know, whenever you've got PTSD and you've got all the different stages, and the first one's like the emergency stage.
Yeah.
And everything's in autopilot, and it's like, we need to do this, we need to do that, and there's nothing really wrong and everything's grand, and then it moves into denial.
Yeah.
People maybe would have says to me, Frances, are you a bit stressed out? And I'd have to face off them, and they never wanted to ask me because I was angry with them for even asking in the first place. After sort of things calmed down and we weren't in this whole state of emergency anymore, it was like, there's nothing wrong with me. Why would you even ask me that? There, your head's away. And I would have been very angry at people for even questioning what was going on with me, because I had so much denial that there was anything wrong. And why to me, like, everybody around me was attacking me. And I actually think at some stage I did blame people. Is it any wonder I'm stressed out? Because all keep treating me like a baby, and you're asking me stupid questions, and you're being smothering and over the top. Just leave me alone and let me be. But little did I know, because I couldn't see it myself. I can see it in other people, but I couldn't actually even see it in myself. I'm walking about thinking everything's normal, and it's really not. My fight mode included, I can't sit down. I need to do this, 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 and this. This has to be done. This has to be perfect. I need to know about this. I need to know about that there. And if anybody even suggested, Frances, you're going over the top here, it was like, how effing dare you? Are you in my situation? No, you're not. Well, then don't judge it. With the PTSD at its very worst, I was a complete mess, and I didn't even know that I was a mess. Like, I was taking anxiety attacks that meant that were so bad that I couldn't breathe, that I got pins and needles in my face and my hands, and my whole body was like tensing up and closing over. And people around me, I phoned an ambulance on me on 3 different occasions, because they were convinced like I was taking a heart attack or a stroke. And it was so scary to see me huddled in a ball, not able, like, having to sit on my hands to keep them flat because they were curled right in, and I still couldn't breathe. And these were lasting for like half an hour at a time. And I honestly still thought there was nothing wrong with me. I was just really stressed out. I was completely exhausted. But because I couldn't sleep, I thought, well, this must just be a bit of stress too, because if I was that tired, I would sleep. I had literally became that overtired that I just wasn't sleeping, and literally living on like 4 to 5 hours sleep a night, and living on coffee and cigarettes. And in my head, I was functioning completely normal, and that everything was okay, and that I just had some bad days, but it's to be expected after everything I've been through, because that was one of the things a lot of people kept saying to me, including the GP, to have feelings of anxiety and stuff, it's to be expected, Frances. And I'm thinking, okay, so it was near enough like even the GP was feeding in this whole, I'm fine. The GP thinks that it's just expected. Well, then why should I worry that there's anything worse wrong? Which, looking back, was quite scary, because I'd literally been to the doctor, I don't know how many times, saying there is something actually wrong with me now, when it dawned on me. Because like after Maddox was born, and then he ended up in the hospital, like I literally had a moment outside of the Royal where I had disassociated completely with my surroundings, where I was, and where I was in my life. I was convinced my baby in the hospital was my other son that I had all the trauma with. And in that moment, I didn't even know I'd had another baby. And it was phoning my mum and explaining it to her. Mum, Jordan's in the cot, and he's got tubes and everything coming out. And she was going to me, no, Mum, no, Frances, Jordan's here beside me. I have him for you, sure, you're in the hospital with Maddox. And I was going, no, it's not. Why land me? it's Jordan. This is Jordan. I had literally transformed myself back 2 years, and I had to snap out of that. And then see, once the second I snapped out of this app, oh, I think that's the scariest moment I have ever had. So it was. And then even after, whenever I went to the doctor, and maybe it's partly my fault because I never told him about the disassociation, because I was convinced that he was going to sign me in somewhere. I told him all the rest of it, and he literally had said the exact words that I'd said you meant to go. It is to be expected to be feeling down and to be feeling anxious, and you've got 2 young children, you'll probably not get much sleep. And I was saying to him things, like, I'm having flashbacks, and he says it's the traumatic memories. And when I look back now, I think, why did that doctor or the other 2 doctors in the same surgery that I have seen ever pick up there was anything wrong? And it literally took 3 ambulances and me sitting down with a female doctor this time and saying to her, I'm not leaving here. You need to sort my head out. I am not functioning normally here at all, and I cannot leave with it's to be expected, and I can't leave with a beta blocker because I don't need a beta blocker, and I don't want antidepressants because I'm not depressed. I know the difference between being depressed and what is going on with me now, and I am not depressed. I am fully functioning, abnormally functioning, but I'm still functioning. And I'm doing all the things that I'm meant to be doing. Why can't any of you just tell me what it is? So the doctor then had diagnosed me with PTSD, and then just sent me on a waiting list to CBT, but it didn't help at all. Because saying that, I paid for it privately to see if it would work, because let me say, Jordan's now coming 5 here in a couple of months, and I've never had an appointment through the GP for my CBT. So I paid for it privately. It wasn't working for me, and I went off down a slope myself, where I paid privately for a counsellor that I had found that I'd liked and that worked for me. But then I done other things like auricular acupuncture. I done yoga. I learned to ground myself. I can teach other people to ground themselves, but I'd never actually grounded myself. And I had to learn very, very quickly that it's okay not to be okay every day. You can't do your best every single day. Sometimes your best will be getting up, getting the kids to school and doing the dishes, and other days doing your best, you could take over the world. From the original diagnosis to now, I would say I am in long-term recovery. I know how to support myself. I know what helps me, what works for me, and I know what doesn't work for me. So the likes of antidepressants, I didn't want to touch them. It was literally the counselling with a complete range of alternative therapies, lying in bed, meditating, wearing crystals, standing like a tree doing yoga in my living room. Anything as long as it worked. That's what I was going to do. And I really, really had to work really hard on the anxiety, because to this day I would still have anxiety, but I know now, I've learned when it's triggered in me straight away, and I know the feeling that's coming up as soon as it starts now, and I can shut it off before it even advances to a later stage where I am doubled over into. I literally haven't had a panic attack in, I would say, 2.5 years. And to me, that's a result of alternative therapy. So it is another one I actually done, which was really good, with self-havening therapy. So it is, which is to do with the neurolinguistics or something in your brain. But basically, it's just like touching your head and your nose and rubbing down your arms and rubbing your hands together. And I know it sounds really stupid, but each one symbolizes something different. And part of that process and that sort of therapy is doing a bit of guided meditation in it. It's like retraining your brain almost, which I find really, really helpful, especially even now when I have anxiety, because doing the wee action sort of takes it all away. I love all these Eastern things, and I love the Chinese, and all these cultures have been practicing all these techniques for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Without having to medicate you. And a lot of people think, oh, that's a joke, or it doesn't work. I find it works really, really well. It could be a personal thing for me, but the way I look at it is, if it works for me, it'll work for other people. And I have now settled myself with, do you know what? You went through that trauma because you needed a change, and going through the trauma even changed my whole thinking process as a counsellor, because after that I literally researched absolutely every type of therapy going, in order to see what worked, what didn't work, what worked for me, what wouldn't work for me, and then able to apply that to the people I work with. So that was the worst experience of my life, and I will probably live with a mild form of that PTSD the rest of my life. But I've learned to live with it, and I've learned not to let it affect me anymore. But at the same time, it's like, it's done me the world of good, because it's made, for me, I think it actually has made me a better person, and it has made me want to help people much more, rather than just sitting there and talking to them. And it's made me understand a lot of the people that I work with a lot more. I've had to learn over the years to pencil in time for myself and to not fill it completely. Yeah. There needs to be, even if it's half an hour in a day, that half hour needs to just be there with nothing in it. Yeah. And at the front of my diary, this past 2 years, every January I have wrote, in order to take care of other people, you firstly need to take care of yourself. As a little reminder, every time I open my diary, don't overdo it.